The great chamber of the Galactic Council was built to make visitors feel small. Its ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. Its walls were made of stone taken from 100 different worlds. Every seat was filled with beings from across the galaxy, and all of them were looking at one woman standing alone in the center of the floor. Ambassador Parkana stood straight and still. She wore the simple gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic service. No gold, no medals, just clean cloth and steady eyes. She had stood in this exact spot 46 times before. Today was the 40-7th. High Speaker Varn sat on his elevated throne, looking down at her with 4 cold eyes. His species had ruled this council for 10,000 years. They were tall, thin, and very proud of their ancient blood. To them, humans were like children who had just learned to walk. Ambassador Park, Boren said, his voice echoing through the chamber. You come before us again with the same request. Earth wishes to become a full member of the Galactic Council. Is this correct? It is correct, High Speaker, Hana replied. Her voice was calm and clear. Then let us review the facts. Voran waved one of his long hands, and holographic images appeared in the air. Humanity has been part of our alliance for 312 years. In that time, your ships have patrolled our borders. Your soldiers have fought in 17 wars that were not your own. Your doctors have cured plagues on 43 worlds. Your engineers have built stations, repaired fleets, and mapped dangerous regions of space. Hannah nodded. She knew all of this. Every human knew it. And yet, Voran continued, you have been a spacefaring species for only 500 years. The youngest member of this council has existed for 3,000 years. You must understand that experience matters. Wisdom takes time. In the seats around the chamber, other council members nodded their heads. Delegate Mirith of the Allori sat quietly, her face troubled. She had always argued in private that humans deserved better treatment, but she never said it out loud in these meetings. Councilor Bren, who controlled the trade faction, was already looking at his datapad, bored with the whole thing. He saw humans as useful workers, nothing more. Arbiter Kessa, the council's moral authority, sat with her eyes closed. Her job was to ensure fairness in all council decisions. She had approved every rejection of humanity's request. Not once had she questioned it. High Speaker, Hana said, I understand your concerns about our age as a species, but I must ask you to look at what we have done, not just how long we have existed. 300 years of service. 300 years of sacrifice. Human soldiers have died protecting worlds they had never seen. Human doctors have spent their lives healing strangers. Is 300 years of proof not enough? Voran smiled. It was not a kind smile. Ambassador, we appreciate your contributions. Truly we do. But membership in this council is not a reward for good behavior. It is a recognition of maturity, of stability. Your species still fights among itself. You still struggle with basic problems of governance. Perhaps in another 1,000 years, you will be ready. Hannah felt something shift inside her chest. It was not anger. Anger had left her long ago. It was something quieter, something final. I see, she said softly. The council will now vote, Voran announced. All those in favor of granting Earth full membership indicate now. The chamber was silent. Not a single light appeared. Not one hand was raised. Even Delegate Mirith, who Hannah knew disagreed with this treatment, sat frozen in her seat, unwilling to stand alone. All those opposed. Every seat lit up with the red light of rejection. Every single one. Varn nodded with satisfaction. The motion fails. Earth's request for membership is denied. This matter is closed until the next scheduled review in 50 years. 50 years. Half a human lifetime. Hana would be dead before the next vote. She looked around the chamber one final time. She saw the bored faces, the dismissive glances, the complete lack of respect for everything her people had given. 3 centuries of blood and sweat and tears, and they were told to wait another 50 years. Something changed in Hana's eyes. The hope that had lived there for so long quietly died. In its place was something else. Peace. The peace of someone who has finally stopped trying. She gathered her documents slowly. She straightened her uniform. And then she spoke 6 words that would echo through history. Then humanity has nothing more to say. Several council members laughed. Councillor Bren snorted and turned back to his datapad. Even Voran seemed amused. Drama, he said to Arbiter Kessa beside him. Humans are always so dramatic. They will calm down and return to their duties soon enough. They always do. Kessa nodded, but something bothered her. There was something in the human ambassador's voice that she had not heard before. It was not anger. It was not sadness. It was goodbye. Hana walked out of the chamber without looking back. Her footsteps were the only sound in the massive room. When the great doors closed behind her, the council quickly moved on to other business. Trade agreements. Border disputes. The small matters of running a galaxy. They did not know that they had just made the greatest mistake in the history of their civilization. Outside the chamber, Hana's assistant, a young man named Cho Min, was waiting for her. He saw her face and his heart sank. They said no again, he whispered. They did, Hana replied. She kept walking toward the docking bay where their ship waited. What do we do now? Appeal? Try again? Hana stopped. She looked at the young man who still had hope in his eyes. She remembered when she had that same hope. It felt like 1,000 years ago. No, she said quietly. No more appeals. No more trying. We are done, Min. We are finally done. Done? What does that mean? Hana reached into her pocket and pulled out a small communication device. She opened a channel that went directly to Earth, to the office of Admiral Kang Tae himself. The message she sent was just one word. Home. Then she put the device away and continued walking. Men hurried to catch up with her. Ambassador, I do not understand. What is happening? Hana smiled for the first time in years. It was a sad smile, but also a free one. We have been asking them to see our worth for 300 years, men. We have begged and proven and sacrificed. And they still see us as children, as servants, as tools. So what do we do? Hana stopped at the door to their ship. She looked back at the great station one last time. We stop asking, she said. We stop proving. We stop serving. We go home, and we let them see what the galaxy looks like without us. Not because we hate them, but because we finally love ourselves enough to walk away. Min was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. The council will not like this, he said. No, Hana agreed. They will not. But that is no longer our problem. They boarded their ship. The engines came to life. And as they flew away from the station, Hana felt lighter than she had in decades. The weight of 300 years of trying to earn respect from people who would never give it was finally off her shoulders. She did not know what would come next. But for the first time, she did not care what the Galactic Council thought about it. The ship jumped into faster-than-light travel and disappeared into the darkness of space behind them. The council continued its meeting, completely unaware that the universe had just changed forever. Admiral Kang Tae was sitting in his office when the message arrived. One word on his screen. Home. He stared at it for exactly 3 seconds. Then he closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He had hoped this day would never come. He had prayed that the council would finally see reason, finally recognize what humanity had given them. But deep in his heart, he had always known it would end this way. He opened his eyes and pressed a button on his desk. "Get me General Cho Jin and Captain Lee Yoon and Dr. Kim Soo. Tell them it is time." Within an hour, they were all in his office. 4 people who held the fate of humanity in their hands. 4 people who had been preparing for this moment for years, hoping they would never have to use their plans. "The ambassadors sent the signal," Tay said simply. "They rejected us again. This time was the last time." General Cho Jin nodded slowly. He was a man of few words, but his eyes said everything. He had lost soldiers protecting council worlds. He had buried young men and women who died for species that called them primitive. He was ready. Captain Lee Yoon sat with her hands folded in her lap. She commanded the medical fleet, dozens of ships that traveled the galaxy healing the sick and stopping plagues. Her doctors had saved millions of alien lives. And still, they were not good enough. Dr. Kim Soo looked out the window at Earth spinning below them. He had spent 20 years making dead worlds come alive for the Council. He had missed his children growing up because he was turning rocks into gardens for people who did not even say thank you. "How do we do this?" Lee Yoon asked quietly. "Silently," Tay replied. "No announcements. No protests. No angry speeches. We simply leave. All of us. Everything we do, we stop doing. Every post we guard, we abandon. Every project we build, we walk away from." "They will think it is a trick," Kim Soo said. "They will think we are trying to scare them into giving us what we want." "Let them think that," Tay said. "Let them think whatever they want. We are not doing this to teach them a lesson. We are doing this because we are tired of being servants who are never invited to sit at the table. We are going home." The orders went out within hours. They were sent through secure channels that the Council could not intercept. Every human ship, every human station, every human worker across the galaxy received the same message. "Come home. Leave quietly. Do not explain." On the frontier, where dangerous space met safe space, human patrol ships had kept the peace for 200 years. Commander Beak Sarah received her orders and felt tears in her eyes. Not sad tears. Relieved tears. She had watched her crew fight and die to protect species that looked at them like animals. Now she could finally take them home. "Set course for Earth," she told her pilot. "Do not tell anyone we are leaving. What about the border? What about the pirates?" Sarah looked out at the stars. "Not our problem anymore." One by one, human ships slipped away from their posts. They did not fire weapons. They did not send angry messages. They simply turned around and flew toward home. By morning, the entire frontier was empty of human presence. In Elori space, Captain Lee Yoon stood on the bridge of her medical ship. The Mercy's Hand. They were in the middle of treating a plague that was spreading through 3 Elori colonies. Her doctors had been working without sleep for weeks, saving thousands of lives every day. Her second officer handed her a datapad. "The orders came, Captain." Yoon read them twice. Then she set down the pad and walked to the window. "Captain, what do we do?" "We pack up," she said. "We leave." "But the plague, the patients." Yoon turned around. There were tears on her face, but her voice was steady. "I know. Believe me, I know. But we have been healing them for 300 years, and they still do not think we are equal to them. They still think we are too young and too stupid to sit on their council. So let them heal themselves. Let them learn what our help was worth." The medical ships departed within 12 hours. They took all their equipment, all their medicine, all their knowledge. They left behind only empty buildings and confused alien doctors who did not know how to treat the plague without human help. Delegate Marith was on her homeworld when she heard the news. Human medical ships were leaving. All of them. She ran to the communication center and tried to contact Captain Yoon's ship, but there was no answer. The channel was silent. "This cannot be happening," she whispered. But it was happening. All across the galaxy, humans were disappearing. Dr. Kim Soo shut down his terraforming projects with a heavy heart. 3 worlds had been in the middle of transformation. Their atmospheres were half-built. Their oceans were half-formed. Without human technology and expertise, the projects would fail. The worlds would die. "I am sorry," he said to no one as he powered down the machines. "I am sorry I could not finish what I started." Then he boarded his ship and flew home. General Cho Jin had the hardest job. For decades, humans had built and maintained an early warning satellite network that protected Council worlds from asteroids, pirates, and enemy fleets. The network had saved billions of lives. It was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. Jin stood in the control room and looked at the screens showing thousands of satellites spread across space. Each one was a small piece of human engineering. Each one was a small miracle. "Shut them down," he ordered. "Sir?" "All of them?" "All of them. And wipe the navigation data for the Vorthen Rift. The safe passage maps we made. Delete everything." His officers hesitated. They knew what this meant. Without those satellites, Council worlds would be blind. Without those maps, ships would die in the rift. "Do it," Jin said quietly. "They told us we were not worthy of sitting at their table. Let them see what it is like to sit there without us." The satellites went dark. The data was erased. 300 years of human knowledge, gone in an instant. On Council Station Avalon, High Speaker Varn was attending a party when his assistant rushed in with news. "High Speaker, the human embassy is empty. All their staff have left. Their ships are gone from the docking bays." Varn waved his hand dismissively. "They are being dramatic. They will be back in a week when they calm down." "Sir, there is more. Human patrol ships have left the frontier. All of them. Human medical fleets are departing from Alori space. Human engineers are abandoning their projects." Morin stopped. For the first time, a small seed of worry entered his mind. Send them a message? Tell them to return to their posts immediately. This is not acceptable behavior. The message was sent. It was received by human communication satellites that were still operating. But no reply came. The channels remained silent. Councillor Bren burst into Varan's chamber an hour later. "Do you know what is happening? Human trade ships are leaving their routes. 34% of all goods in dangerous space are moved by human ships. If they stop, our economy will collapse." "They will not stop," Morin said, but his voice was less certain now. "They are bluffing. They need us more than we need them." "Do they?" Bren shouted. "What exactly do they need from us? They grow their own food. They make their own technology. They have their own world. What have we ever given them?" Warren opened his mouth to answer. Then he closed it. Then he opened it again. He could not think of a single thing. On Earth, Admiral Kang Tae watched as human ships filled the space around their home planet. Thousands of ships coming back from every corner of the galaxy. Soldiers and doctors and engineers and workers. All of them coming home. Ambassador Park Hannah stood beside him. "They will send demands soon. They will threaten us. Let them," Tae said. "We have nothing they can take that we are not willing to lose. They might attack." Tae shook his head. "They will not. They need us too much. They just do not know it yet. But they will. Very soon, they will." Hannah looked out at the stars. "How long do you think before they realize what they have lost?" Tae thought about all the borders now unguarded. All the plagues now untreated. All the satellites now dark. All the projects now abandoned. "A month," he said. "Maybe less. And then they will understand what our service was really worth. They stood in silence and watched their people come home. After 300 years of serving a galaxy that did not respect them, humanity was finally putting itself first. The Galactic Council had made many mistakes in its long history, but this one would be remembered forever. 3 months after humanity went silent, the Galactic Council was falling apart. High Speaker Varun sat in his private chamber, reading reports that grew worse every day. He had not slept properly in weeks. His 4 eyes were tired and red. The galaxy he had ruled with such confidence was now burning, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The first disaster came from the frontier. For 200 years, human patrol ships had kept the border safe. They had fought pirates, chased raiders, and protected the trade routes that connected council worlds. The other species had always thought this was easy work. They had always thought anyone could do it. They were wrong. Within 3 weeks of human departure, the pirate clans returned. They came in waves, attacking colony ships and trade vessels. They took what they wanted and killed anyone who resisted. Council security forces tried to stop them, but they did not know the frontier like humans did. They did not know the hiding places, the shortcuts, the tricks. 3 colony worlds fell in a single week. 50,000 people died or were taken as slaves. The survivors sent desperate messages to the council begging for help. But the council had no help to give. Send more ships. Varun ordered at an emergency meeting. We do not have more ships, one of his admirals replied. Human ships were the backbone of our security forces. Without them, we cannot protect everything. Then protect the most important places? Which places are most important? Every world thinks they are the priority. Every species is demanding protection first. Varun slammed his fist on the table. This is impossible. How did humans manage this? The admiral was quiet for a moment. Then he said softly, They worked twice as hard as anyone else, High Speaker. They took the dangerous routes and the long shifts. They never complained. We just never noticed because they made it look easy. The second disaster came from Alori space. The plague that Captain Li Yun had been treating was still spreading. Without human doctors and human medicine, the Alori medical teams could not contain it. They did not understand the disease. They did not have the right equipment. They did not know what to do. Delegate Marath watched her people die. Every day, the numbers grew. Hospitals were overflowing. Medicine was running out. And no one was coming to help Dot. She stood in a crowded hospital ward, looking at rows of sick children. Their parents held their hands and cried. The doctors moved from bed to bed, doing what little they could, knowing it was not enough. Why did they leave? A mother asked Mirith through her tears. Why did the human doctors leave? Mirith could not answer. How could she explain that the council had pushed them away? How could she say that her own silence at those meetings had helped cause this? She walked outside and looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, Captain Li Yun's medical fleet was flying home to Earth. All that knowledge, all that skill, all that compassion, gone because the council could not say 2 simple words, you belong. Councillor Bren was dealing with his own disaster. The trade routes through dangerous space had collapsed. Human ships had carried goods through regions that no other species would enter. They had navigated asteroid fields and radiation zones and areas where pirates waited. Now, those routes were empty, and the goods were not moving. Prices on council worlds were rising every day. Food that used to be cheap was now expensive. Medicine that used to be available was now rare. Luxury items had disappeared completely. Bren's own business empire was falling apart. He had made his fortune by using human ships to move products quickly and safely. Now he had nothing to move them with. His daughter came to visit him one evening. She was sick with the plague that was spreading from Alori space. Her face was pale, and she could barely stand. "Father," she whispered, "I heard there might be human medicine that could help. Can you get some?" Bren held her hand and felt his heart break. "I am trying, my child. I am trying." But he knew there was no human medicine coming. He had spent 30 years voting against human membership, telling himself they were not ready, not worthy, not equal. Now his daughter was dying, and the people who could save her were a galaxy away. Ignoring his messages, the third disaster came from the Vorthan Rift. The Rift was a region of unstable space where normal navigation did not work. Ships that entered without proper charts would be lost forever. For decades, humans had mapped safe passages through the rift. They had shared these maps freely with the Council. When General Chojin deleted the navigation data, the Council did not realize what they had lost. They thought they had copies. They thought they could figure it out themselves. They were wrong. 2 Council cruisers entered the rift on a routine patrol mission. They were following old maps that they believed were accurate. They were not. The ships were never seen again. 3,000 crew members vanished into the twisted space of the rift. Search parties were sent, but they could not enter without the human charts. They flew along the edge, calling out on every frequency, listening for any signal. There was only silence. Arbiter Kessa sat alone in her chambers, surrounded by datapads containing 3 centuries of records. She had been reading for days, trying to understand how the Council had failed so completely. What she found horrified her. Humans have been asking for help since the day they joined the Alliance. They had suffered famines on their colony worlds. They had fought brutal civil wars that killed millions. They had nearly lost their moon colony to an asteroid impact, and the Council had done nothing. Not once in 300 years had the Galactic Council sent aid to humanity. Not once had they offered assistance. Not once had they treated humans as anything other than useful servants. But humans had kept coming when the Council called. Every time there was a crisis, human ships appeared. Every time there was a plague, human doctors arrived. Every time there was a threat, human soldiers stood ready. They had given everything and received nothing. Kessa put down the datapad and wept. She had been the Council's moral authority. She was supposed to ensure fairness and justice, and she had failed completely. "I am sorry," she whispered to the empty room. "I am so sorry." High Speaker Voran called an emergency session of the full Council. The chamber that had been so confident 3 months ago was now filled with fear and desperation. "We must bring the humans back," Voran announced. "I am sending a diplomatic mission to Earth. We will offer them full membership. We will give them whatever they want. Will they accept?" Delegate Mirith asked quietly. "They must accept. They have no choice. We are the Galactic Council. We rule this galaxy." Mirith shook her head slowly. "No, High Speaker. We do not rule anything. We simply sat on high thrones while humans did the real work. And now they are gone. Then we will make them come back." Councillor Bren shouted. His daughter had died that morning. His grief was turning into rage. "Send warships. Force them to return." "And then what?" Mirith asked. "Force them to heal our sick at gunpoint? Force them to patrol our borders while we hold weapons to their heads? That is not service. That is slavery." The chamber fell silent. Arbiter Kessa stood slowly. Her face was tired and sad. "Delegate Mirith is right. We cannot force them. We must ask them. We must apologize. We must admit that we were wrong." Voran stared at her. "Apologize? The Galactic Council does not apologize to anyone." "Then the Galactic Council will fall," Kessa replied simply. "We are already falling. Look around you. Our borders are burning. Our people are dying. Our economy is collapsing. And we did this to ourselves." She walked to the center of the chamber, to the spot where Ambassador Park Hana had stood 3 months ago. We told them they were not good enough. We told them to wait another 50 years. We took their service and gave them nothing but contempt in return. This is the result. She looked up at Varan. We must go to them. We must beg if necessary, because without them, we have no future. Varan sat in silence for a long time. His pride was screaming at him to refuse. But for the first time in his long life, he knew that his pride was not enough. Prepare the diplomatic fleet, he said quietly. I will go to Earth myself. It was the first wise decision he had made in 300 years. But he was about to learn that it was also far too late. The Council's diplomatic fleet was the largest ever assembled for a peaceful mission. 50 ships carrying the most important leaders in the galaxy. High Speaker Varan himself sat on the flagship, surrounded by advisors and guards. Councillor Bren was there, broken and grieving for his daughter. Arbiter Kessa was there, carrying the weight of 3 centuries of guilt. And Delegate Mareth was there, hoping that somehow it was not too late. They traveled for 2 weeks through empty space. The routes that used to be filled with human trade ships were silent now. The stations that used to buzz with human activity were dark. It was like flying through a graveyard. When they finally reached the edge of human space, they found something unexpected. A single station floated in the darkness. It was small compared to the Council's great fortresses. Its lights were dim. Its weapons were few, but it blocked the only known path to Earth. The station was called Last Light. General Cho Jin's voice came through the communication system. It was calm and polite, like a host greeting guests at a party. Galactic Council Fleet, this is Station Last Light. You have entered human space. Please state your purpose. High Speaker Varan leaned forward in his chair. This is High Speaker Varan of the Galactic Council. I am here to speak with Earth's leaders. I demand passage to your homeworld. There was a pause. Then Jin's voice returned. I am afraid that will not be possible, High Speaker. The border is closed. Humanity thanks the Council for its centuries of instruction. We have learned much about our place in the galaxy. We wish you well. Varan's 4 eyes widened. You cannot deny me passage. I am the leader of the Galactic Council. Yes, you are, Jin agreed. And I am the guardian of this border. The answer is no. Councillor Bren grabbed the communication device from Varan's hands. Listen to me, General. My daughter is dead. She died because your doctors left. Thousands are dying every day. You must come back. Jin was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer, but still firm. I am sorry for your loss, Counselor. Truly, I am. Our doctors did not want to leave. They cried when they walked away from their patients. But they had no choice. For 300 years, they healed your people while you called them children. They saved your lives while you told them they were not worthy of sitting at your table. They could not do it anymore. Bren fell back into his chair, defeated. Arbiter Kessa stepped forward. General Cho Jin, I am Arbiter Kessa. I was responsible for ensuring fairness in the Council. I failed. I know that now. Please let us speak with your leaders. Let us apologize properly. Arbiter, with respect, you had 300 years to be fair. You had 47 votes to do the right thing. You chose not to. An apology now, when you need something from us, means nothing. Varan grabbed the communication device again. What do you want? I am offering you full membership in the Galactic Council. Immediately. Unconditionally. Everything you ever asked for. Jin laughed softly. It was not a cruel laugh. It was a tired laugh. High Speaker, that offer is 3 centuries too late. We do not want your membership anymore. We do not want your approval. We do not want anything from you. Then what are we supposed to do? Varan shouted. Our worlds are falling apart. Our people are dying. That is no longer our concern, Jin replied. You made it very clear that we were not part of your family. So we left. What happens to you now is your problem to solve. Voran was about to scream more when Delegate Mareth gently took the device from his hands. Her voice was quiet and sad. General, this is Delegate Mareth. I am not here to demand anything. I am not here to threaten or bargain. I just want to send a message to Captain Li Yun, if you will allow it. Jin was silent for a moment. I will pass it along. Mareth closed her eyes and spoke from her heart. Captain Yun, I doubt you remember me. We met once at a conference on medical cooperation. You told me about your dream of building a hospital ship that could reach any world in the galaxy within a day. Your eyes were so bright when you talked about saving lives. She paused, gathering herself. I want you to know that I am sorry. I sat in that council chamber for 30 years, and I watched my colleagues reject your people again and again. I knew it was wrong. I felt it in my heart every single time. But I never stood up. I never said anything. I was a coward who was afraid to stand alone. Tears were streaming down her face now. You deserved better than us. You deserve leaders who recognize your worth, not politicians who used you and threw you away. I do not ask you to forgive us. I do not ask you to come back. I just want you to know that some of us always saw you. Some of us always knew. We were just too weak to say it. The channel was silent for a long time. The entire fleet waited, barely breathing. Then a new voice came through. It was Captain Li Yun. Delegate Mareth, I do remember you. You were kind to me at that conference. You asked about my family and actually listened to the answer. I have not forgotten. Mareth held the device tighter. Captain, I want to tell you something that might help you understand, Yun continued. When we left your space, I had to walk away from a hospital full of dying children. I had to look into their parents' eyes and say goodbye. It was the hardest thing I have ever done. Her voice cracked slightly, but she kept going. I did it because I realized that serving people who do not respect you is not kindness. It is self-destruction. We were destroying ourselves trying to earn love that would never come. So we stopped. I understand, Mareth whispered. But here is the other thing I want you to know, Yun said. We did not leave to hurt you. We are not enjoying your suffering. We left because we finally loved ourselves enough to walk away. That is all. There was a pause. Go home, Delegate. Fix your council. Build something better. Perhaps someday, your children will create a galaxy we can believe in. But that day is not today. And the people who will build it are not standing on that fleet. The channel went quiet. Voran looked around at his advisors. What do we do now? We cannot force our way through. That station has defense systems that would destroy half our fleet. Arbiter Kessa sat down heavily. We go home. We accept that we failed. We try to save what we can and rebuild what we cannot. But our worlds will suffer, Kessa interrupted. Many will die. Many have already died. And we have no one to blame but ourselves. The fleet turned around slowly. 50 ships that had come hoping for salvation now flew back to face consequences they had created. On station last light, General Cho Jin watched them go. Admiral Kan Tae stood beside him, along with Captain Li Yun and Ambassador Park Hana, who had come to witness this moment. That was harder than I expected, Yun said softly. Hearing them beg. It was supposed to be hard, Hana replied. Walking away from people who need help is never easy. But sometimes it is necessary. Tae nodded. They will suffer now. And I wish they did not have to. But we suffered for 3 centuries while serving them, and they never cared. Perhaps now they will understand what it feels like to be alone. Hana looked out at the stars where the council fleet was disappearing. Do you think they will change? She asked. Tay thought about it for a long moment. Maybe, if they survive this. If they are smart enough to learn from their mistakes. But that is not our job anymore. Our job is to take care of our own people. To build our own future. To stop defining ourselves by what they think of us. He turned away from the window. Come, we have work to do. Earth is waiting. They walked away from the observation deck together. Behind them, the lights of Station Last Light glowed softly in the darkness. A small beacon at the edge of human space, saying without words, we are here. We are whole. We no longer need you. And for the first time in 300 years, that was enough. 20 years passed. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. The great Galactic Council that had ruled for 10,000 years was gone. In its place was something new. Something humbler. Something better. It had not been an easy transformation. In the years after humanity's departure, the Council had nearly destroyed itself. The frontier wars claimed dozens of worlds. The plagues killed millions. The economic collapse left entire species starving. For a time, it seemed like the galaxy would fall into darkness forever. High Speaker Varn was removed from power within a year of his failed mission to Earth. The species he had led lost faith in his judgment. He spent his final years alone, writing memoirs that no one would read. Dying forgotten in a small room on a station that had once celebrated his name. Counselor Bren never recovered from his daughter's death. He gave away his fortune, every coin of it, to fund medical research in hospitals across the galaxy. He died poor but at peace, having spent his remaining years trying to undo the damage his greed had caused. Arbiter Kessa became the leader of a reformed council. She threw away the old rules that judged species by age instead of contribution. She opened membership to anyone who could prove their worth through action, not through years of existence. Under her guidance, the council slowly began to rebuild, but she never forgave herself. Every night before sleep, she read the names of those who had died in the collapse. She kept a small book of human history on her desk, reminding herself of what arrogance could cost. Delegate Mirith left politics altogether. She opened a school on her homeworld where young people could learn about Earth and human history. She taught them about a species that had crossed the stars not to conquer, but to help. A species that had asked for nothing except respect, and had been told they were not worthy of it. Her students would go on to become leaders themselves. They would carry the lessons she taught them into the next generation. They would not forget. On Earth, life had also changed. Admiral Kante retired to a small house by the sea. He spent his mornings walking on the beach and his evenings, reading books he had never had time for during his years of service. Sometimes old friends visited him, and they would talk about the past until the stars came out. He did not regret his decisions. He knew that the withdrawal had caused suffering. He knew that innocent people had died because human ships were not there to protect them, because human doctors were not there to heal them. That weight never left him completely, but he also knew that staying would have destroyed his people from the inside. 300 years of being told you are worthless will break anyone eventually. Sometimes the only way to heal is to walk away. Ambassador Park Hannah wrote her memoirs. She called them The Last Request, and they told the story of humanity's final vote at the Galactic Council. The book was translated into 100 languages and read across the galaxy. It became the most important historical document of its time. In the book, she did not write about revenge or satisfaction. She wrote about grief. The grief of loving something that does not love you back. The grief of giving everything and receiving nothing. The grief of finally accepting that some relationships cannot be fixed. But she also wrote about hope. The hope that comes after you stop hoping for the wrong things. The hope that grows when you start valuing yourself instead of waiting for others to value you. Captain Lee Yoon built her dream. Not the hospital ship that could reach any world in a day. Something smaller. A medical school on Earth where young doctors were trained to heal anyone, regardless of where they came from. Human students studied alongside aliens who had quietly made their way to Earth over the years. The school was called Second Chance. Its motto was simple. Everyone deserves care. Dr. Kim Soo finally finished what he had started. But instead of terraforming alien worlds for ungrateful masters, he healed Earth. The damaged oceans, the wounded forests, the broken atmosphere. He spent 20 years making his homeworld green and clean. And he saw his grandchildren playing gardens he had planted with his own hands. General Cho Jin kept watch at Station Last Light for 10 more years before passing command to younger officers. He moved back to Earth and opened a small restaurant near the Space Academy. Young cadets would come to eat his cooking and listen to his stories about the old days. He never told them to hate the council. He told them to be proud of who they were. And then one day, a message arrived. It came from the reformed Galactic Council, now led by Arbiter Kessa and a new generation of leaders who had learned from the mistakes of their parents. It was not a demand. It was not a threat. It was not even really a request. It was an invitation. To the people of Earth, the message read, 20 years ago, you left the Galactic Council because we failed to see your worth. You were right to leave. We were wrong to drive you away. In the years since, we have tried to become better. We have tried to build the kind of galaxy you deserved, but never received. We do not ask you to return. We do not expect you to forgive. We simply wish to meet with you, face to face, to listen and to understand. Whatever you decide, we will respect it. Admiral Tae received the message at his beach house. He read it 3 times before calling the others. They gathered in Ambassador Hana's home. 5 old friends who had shaped history, now gray-haired and slow-moving, but still sharp in mind. They sat around her table and discussed what to do. I never thought they would actually change, Kim Soo admitted. I thought they would just rebuild the same broken system. They have changed, Yoon said. She had stayed in contact with Delegate Mirith over the years. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough to matter. General Jin poured tea for everyone. The question is whether we want to be part of that change, or whether we are content here, alone. Hannah looked around at her friends. These were the people who had walked away from a galaxy that refused to see them. These were the people who had bet everything on the belief that humanity was worth more than what others thought of them. What do you think? She asked Tae. The old admiral sipped his tea slowly. Outside the window, the sun was setting over the ocean he had come to love. 20 years of peace. 20 years of healing. 20 years of learning who they were without the council's approval. I think, he said finally, that silence speaks louder than any weapon. We proved that. The question is whether we are ready to speak again. And what would we say? Yoon asked. Tae smiled. We would say what we have always believed. That every species deserves respect. That service should be honored, not taken for granted. That the galaxy is big enough for everyone to have a seat at the table. They might disappoint us again, Jin warned. They might, Tae agreed. But I would rather hope and be disappointed than hide and never know. Hannah nodded slowly. She looked at each of her friends, seeing in their faces the journey they had all taken together. From desperate servants begging for acceptance to proud people who had found their worth. Then we will meet them, she said. Not as beggars, not as servants, but as equals, finally, at last. She stood and walked to her communication console. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened a channel to the council. 20 years of silence was about to end. "This is Ambassador Park Hana of Earth," she said. "We are listening." Far across the galaxy, Arbiter Kessa heard those words and felt tears roll down her aged face. Beside her, Delegate Mirith smiled for the first time in years. They did not know what would come next. Perhaps the humans would join them again. Perhaps they would remain separate but friendly. Perhaps the wounds were too deep to ever fully heal. But for the first time in 2 decades, there was a chance. A small spark of connection in the endless darkness of space, and sometimes that is enough. On Earth, Admiral Tay stood and looked out at the stars. The same stars that human ships had patrolled for centuries. The same stars they had abandoned to save themselves. They were beautiful, he thought. They had always been beautiful. He had just been too busy proving himself to others to notice. Now he noticed. Now he saw. And for the first time in his life, he was ready to share that beauty. Not because anyone demanded it. Not because anyone expected it. But because he chose to. That was the difference. That was what 300 years of rejection and 20 years of silence had taught them. Your worth is not what others give you. Your worth is what you know yourself to be. And humanity finally knew.